Hi, I'm Jacob Hornberger, Libertarian candidate for president in 2024. I recently did a video commentary on the hypocrisy of Democrats when it comes to immigration. Democrats say they love the poor, needy, and disadvantaged, and they use that to justify their massive welfare state programs, while at the same time they support ardently this immigration control system that brings nothing but death, suffering, impoverishment, and misery to the people who are among the poorest in the world, illegal immigrants. But the same can be said about Republicans. They too suffer from this malady of political hypocrisy when it comes to immigration. For example, Republicans say that they're firm believers in free enterprise and free markets. We hear that from them all the time. In fact, their favorite mantra is free enterprise, private property, limited government. They have it on their websites, on their stationery, in their speeches, articles, and so forth. It's their favorite mantra. And yet, when it comes to immigration controls, they favor socialism. Because there's no question but that immigration controls is a socialist system. It's based on the core principle of central planning, which is a socialist principle. That's why there's chaos and crisis, and has been for decades along the border, because that's what socialism produces, what Ludwig von Mises called planned chaos. Republicans also, as we all know, love to wear their religion on their sleeves. They go to church every Sunday. They want everybody to know about it. And in church, they learn things like God's second greatest commandment, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. But if you were to ask a Republican how he reconciles that commandment with his support for this immigration control system that brings death, suffering, misery, and abuse on the poorest people in the world, I think he'd respond, well, Jacob, you're misinterpreting this commandment, that actually what God meant was our next door neighbor. And that I say good morning to my next door neighbor every morning, and I hold his packages when he goes on vacation, and therefore I'm complying with God's commandment, Jacob. But I don't believe that's what God meant when he gave us that commandment. I think what he meant by was your fellow man. And I also am convinced that when one treats one's fellow man in this kind of manner, that he's actually treating God in this fashion. In fact, Jesus even says that God's first commandment is just like the second. Thou shalt love thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, thy soul, and thy mind. So when we look at immigration, it's clear that libertarians have a consistent, principled worldview toward humanity, one that is consistent with the principles of free markets, free enterprise, and moral and religious principles. It's also clear that Republicans, like Democrats, continue to be afflicted by this grave malady of hypocrisy. I'm Jacob Hornberger, Libertarian candidate for president. My campaign website is jacobforliberty.com.